Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast, we're going to play the blame game on the offensive side of the football. Who most deserves criticism for the failures of the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles?
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day, and thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Louie DiBiase. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. The blame game is very active right now. In the city of Philadelphia, we're trying to get down to the exact science of figuring this offense out, getting it back on track before it's too late. At 8-4, the Eagles are still only one game back from the #1 seed in the NFC. They still have pretty much all the head-to-head tiebreakers outside of the tiebreaker with the Chicago Bears, trying to point blame at certain coaches, certain players, certain positional units. I think the fact of the matter is, and I think we all can agree with this, that everybody has had a hand in making the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles offense significantly underachieve. And I think that word significant is still kind of an understatement for how bad this offense has been, how inefficient they have been the majority of the season. So I don't think it's just on Nick Sirianni. I don't think it's just on Jalen Hurts or Kevin Patullo or the offensive line inconsistencies, the injuries, just the state of the NFL right now. All of that combined has kind of created what you're seeing on that side of the ball through 12 games of this season. But there are things that play a bigger part than others as to why this offense, again, it's not just that they've been inconsistent. They are at the bottom of the NFL in most statistical categories, below teams like the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, rebuilding teams that have been out of playoff contention for weeks now, if not all season long. And that is completely unacceptable, even if you've accepted things about the makeup of this organization like I have on that side of the ball. How bad they have been this year, even with that acceptance, is absolutely unacceptable. So who is most to blame? I ranked it 1 through 5, playing the blame game. #1 for me, the offensive line. #2, head coach Nick Sirianni. #3, offensive coordinator and play caller Kevin Patullo. At #4, quarterback Jalen Hurts. And at #5, just in general, the state of the NFL. Those are my blame rankings for the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles offense. #1 is the offensive line issues. #2, head coach Nick Sirianni. #3, play caller Kevin Patullo. #4, Jalen Hurts. #5, the state of the NFL. Why the offensive line is #1 is because that is the makeup, that is the identity, the DNA of this offense, is running things through the offensive line, both the run game and the passing game. If the offensive line is not in sync, the run game has to carry this offense. The passing game plays off of the run game. All of that is dependent on this offensive line being the top 5 unit that we've been used to. I don't want to even just say in this era, but in our entire lives as fans of the Philadelphia Eagles. And this season, because of injuries to Landon Dickerson, to Cam Jurgens, to Lane Johnson. I mean, the record continues to look awful without Lane Johnson. They've lost both games without number 65 on the right side of the offensive line. Even with this offensive line looking as inconsistent as they've been doing all year, without Lane, it's even on another level. And Jordan Mailata has not been a consistent football player this year compared to last season when he was graded as the best player in the world, regardless of position, according to Pro Football Focus. So to me, that's the #1 thing to blame for the Eagles offense this year, is that they just have not been able to get right up front. It has completely removed their superpower on offense, which is running the football, which has now put more pressure on a passing game that's always been inconsistent, especially when you don't have a good play caller. which you don't right now in Kevin Patullo. Jalen Hurts is not playing consistent enough, nearly enough, to carry this football team through the air. And so to me, like, it all stems back to the offensive line from the jump of the season has not looked the same because of injuries, because Mekhi Becton's not here anymore, because of inconsistent play from normally star players like Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson. I think that's the number one thing to blame. Even though Kevin Patullo has not been a good play caller this year, and Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni have limitations that sometimes you have to overcome. With all that being said, if the offensive line was as good as they were last year, the Eagles would not be dealing with these issues, the extreme issues that they are right now on the offensive side of the football, both in the run game and the passing game. So that's why I put them at number one. Number two to me is Nick Sirianni because he's the head coach. He made the decision to promote Kevin Patullo and not interview anybody from outside the organization, even though he knew when he brought in somebody from outside the organization to call plays, Shane Steichen, when he became head coach in 2021, and Kellen Moore in 2024, this team went to Super Bowls and they won a championship. When he is promoted from within, guess what happened? 2023, they collapsed. 2025, the offense has been even worse. I think far worse than the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles offense. Nick Sirianni made that decision. Nick Sirianni promoted Kevin Patullo, who's kind of a direct extension of Sirianni based on the scheme that they run on offense. Like, this is Nick Sirianni's offense more than it is Kevin Patullo's. This is Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts' offense. The Philadelphia Eagles have had penalty issues all year long. That's on Nick Sirianni, the guy that preaches discipline and small details more than any coach in the NFL. Jordan Mailata consistently says on the radio, it feels like every single week, penalties, penalties, penalties. That is the biggest thing that is holding this team back on the offensive side of the football. That's on Nick Sirianni, even more so than it would be if he was calling plays, because your sole job, it feels like, on game day, like as a game manager, as a guy that's more of a hands-on head coach now, it's to preach and coach the small details of this football team in all three phases, and penalties have been an issue on defense, on offense, and even on special teams. So that is ultimately on Nick Sirianni, and he's the one deciding not to make a change at play caller. And while I don't think that's the end-all, be-all, that's the big fix of this season, it is something that could help. And if he continues to ride it out with Patullo this year, and the offense doesn't get better, like, that's on Nick Sirianni. He is the offensive-minded head coach of this football team, and he deserves criticism for that. And then at number three, it's Kevin Patullo, because Kevin Patullo, everybody's seeing it. The national media is seeing it. We, the fans, are seeing it. I mean, NFL fans across the league, everybody knows how vanilla, how out of sync and illogical this offensive scheme has been all season long, and it's the same things over and over again, and just nothing is married together with the pass and run concepts, the conservative nature of this offense throughout the majority of the year, the fact that they've gone entire halves, it feels like all year long, where they just cannot move the football, whether they're throwing the ball or running the ball. I know a lot of players are blaming it on execution, but so much of that is on Patullo. And when you watch the film, I mean, look at everybody break this offense down. Patullo is not doing much to scheme players open. Even the smaller things, like the simple plays, are just not working for this football team. That doesn't mean he deserves to have his house egged, I should say, which was unbelievable that happened to him yesterday. I think that's ridiculous, and fans took it too far. But he is absolutely a top three reason this offense has been so bad in 2025. And then at number four, it is Jalen Hurts. I mean, look, Jalen has had to deal with a lot this year. He's yet again had a brand new play caller who's not very good at his job. The offensive line has not been the same. The run game has not been the same. But Jalen, at the same time, even with his limitations that I've accepted, has proven in the past that he can elevate much more than he's been doing this year, especially over the last month. 3 of the last 4 games. You know, I think early on in the year, it was frustrating, his conservative play, but he would make the plays clutch late in the fourth quarter, and he would elevate this team like he did against Minnesota, like he did against the Giants, in the fourth quarter against the Chiefs, against the Packers, against the Lions. Like, when push came to shove, he did make those plays, and he was playing, although it was too conservative, he was playing efficient football, high completion percentage. He wasn't turning the ball over. Now, his completion percentage has been under 60 in 3 of the last 4 games. He's been extremely inaccurate. He's been missing open players. He's not throwing over the middle of the field. He's not running as much as he used to. Like, that's a lot of that is on Jalen Hurts. Like, he's, even for the things I've accepted about him and his limitations, he isn't playing up to the standard that we are used to from Jalen over 6 seasons. And so I put him at number 4. Number 5 to me is just the state of the NFL. Look across the league. How many offenses right now have dominated all year long? I mean, the Los Angeles Rams. How many other teams? Like, maybe the Seattle Seahawks, you could argue. Who else? I mean, the Indianapolis Colts were pretty good all year, and they've completely collapsed over the last few weeks. Give me an AFC team that's been dominant all year on offense. This has kind of become a defensive football league this year, and it's kind of Mad Max Fury Road, just absolute chaos and inconsistency. So I think it's also just a lot of teams in the NFL right now are struggling to find consistent production on the offensive side of the ball. So those are my blame rankings on the Eagles offense from 1 to 5. The offensive line, Nick Sirianni, Kevin Patullo, Jalen Hurts, and then just the state of the NFL. Let me know what you think. Head us up on X at LockedOnBirds and at DiBiase, LOE. Coming up next, I think a big thing the Eagles coaching staff needs to do the rest of the way this year and for 2026, they need to get Jalen Hurts more out of his comfort zone. I'll tell you what I mean coming up right here on Locked On Eagles. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays, they move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place live bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the games start to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as a guy heats up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Thanks as always now for making Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Like I said in segment 1, I don't think Jalen Hurts is the #1 thing to blame, person to blame for the Eagles' offensive issues this year. The offensive line has not been good. The run game has not been good. The play caller has not been good. Penalties have really stalled out drives all year long. And there have been some games where Jalen has carried you throughout an entire game. In the first half, in the second half, he's been extremely clutch through the first 10 weeks of the season. But at the same time, as I said on yesterday's show, even with the limitations and the inconsistencies, like the ups and downs of Jalen Hurts that I've now come to expect, for a quarterback that's getting $50+ million a year, that has proven that he can elevate at a really high level, especially when moments matter more than they have all season long, he's not playing up to his normal standard. Like, Jalen Hurts, for a player that's been able to be as elite as he has so often throughout his career, again, maybe not as often as other quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, he has set a standard to which he is not playing good enough right now. Like, we are absolutely allowed to criticize him in a vacuum since the bye week. It's disappointing because I think he was suddenly becoming an MVP favorite after the Vikings and Giants games. And since then, he was awful against Green Bay until the fourth quarter. Same with the Detroit game. He was great in the first half against Dallas, and then I thought he was okay in the second half against the Cowboys, but he didn't do enough to close that game out. And then the Bears game was one of the worst games I've seen from Jalen Hurts in a long time. He's completing under 60% of his passes in 3 of those 4 games. The only one that he was efficient was against Dallas. Like, he's not playing good enough. He's just not. And I think what they need to do, obviously, like, just Jalen needs to play better. The ball placement's been really bad. He's been very inaccurate, especially in the cold weather. He has not been good outdoors. The one game he's played well since the bye week, they were inside Jerry World. I think that's why maybe he'll bounce back on Monday night against the Chargers, because they'll be inside in LA. But the tape shows that he's not, even with all the problems of this team on the offensive line with coaching, there have been open plays to be made that Jalen's not making. Jalen has become a little bit more mistake prone in the second half of games. Like that interception against the Bears last week was not good. I mean, he turned the ball over on the tush push as well. He fumbled that ball away. So Jalen needs to be better. I think this coaching staff needs to find ways to get him out of his comfort zone more. I think that's a big thing. Maybe not for the rest of this season, but when I'm deciding who's the offensive coordinator next year, if I'm Sirianni, but also Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, I'm thinking to myself, how do I make Jalen Hurts grow more? Because the tape shows that, let's say, for instance, like throwing over the middle, we want Jalen to do that more moving forward in his career, especially if he's going to start to run less. Like, he needs to be more efficient in the pocket. And the problem is he's just not utilizing a main area of the field that could really help this offense. I think they need to push him out of his comfort zone, and that's what I would prioritize when I'm bringing in a coordinator next year, when I'm bringing in a new play caller. This year, the rest of the way, I would really try to emphasize using the intermediate levels of the football field, throw over the middle, use more crossing routes. They run those kind of concepts fewer than any team in football, despite having the personnel to do it with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Even Jahan Dotson has been proven that he can make really tough catches in traffic. And the tape shows that Hurts can do it. He is more than capable of throwing over the middle. Against Chicago, Hurts was 4 for 5 for 64 yards over the middle. The entire season, he's 14 of 21 for 250 yards passing, 1 touchdown and no picks. That's throwing over the middle of the field. The fact that there's only been 21 attempts, like, that's a really damning stat, but he is capable of doing it. They need to start making him do it more based on play calls. When the game isn't late, when they're not trailing, they need to do it earlier on in football games. And look, obviously, what I love about Nick Sirianni, what I do prioritize in coaching, if I was a coach myself, I really believe in molding a scheme around the strengths of your player. I used to hate growing up watching coaches that said, here's what I do, here's my scheme, whether I have the personnel for that or not, it's my way or the highway. You mold to this scheme. I don't mold my scheme around your strengths. That used to drive me nuts, especially with guys like Chip Kelly, who used to sometimes try to shove a square peg into a round hole. So I think overall, playing to the strengths of your players, and not trying to expose their weaknesses, is good business. But when your offense is clearly missing something that can help, and your quarterback can do it, just kind of prefers not to, you have to push players out of their comfort zone to grow, especially when they're in year 6, year 7. And yeah, Jalen, I don't think will ever be the surgical, anticipatory thrower of the football over the middle that like a Tom Brady was, or that, some of these other elite pocket passers are. I don't think he'll ever be Peyton Manning or Drew Brees in that way, right? But again, the numbers show, the tape shows that he can make those layer throws in traffic. He can throw with anticipation. I think he's not great against zone coverage, especially when you're throwing behind the sticks. But again, the past has proven that he can do it. So they need to push that more. And this goes for designed runs as well. Like, yeah, I know risking quarterback injury is not ideal when you're a contender, but if your quarterback isn't elevating as a result, is that much better? Like the same thing with the turnover argument earlier in the year. Like, yeah, not turning the football over is good, but if it's at the expense of not producing yards and points. Like, is that much better of a strategy? So I don't know. I think that would be my number one priority the rest of the way. And then in 2026, when I'm deciding who's calling plays, like rewatching that offensive tape against the Bears again today showed me that Jalen can do it. And I think they do need to push him a little bit more. I know Hurts is a veteran and he has say now in what he wants the offense to look like. But if I'm Sirianni and if I'm Howie and Louie, I'm thinking, yeah, what Jalen does works most of the time. We can win championships this way. But if we want to become a more consistent offense, and especially as the older he gets, if we do want to preserve him from a health perspective and use less designed runs, they're going to have to become better as a pocket passing offense. They're going to have to use the middle of the football field. It can't all be deep ball or nothing. Deep ball, check down, or throw it away, don't turn the ball over. Like, that's too extreme of a strategy to be a consistent offense. And obviously the run game getting more consistent would be able to help carry that for some, but there will be times your offensive line is not always the best at football. There will be times you have to throw to win games. And if you're going to do that, you have to use that area of the field more. And I think that's a big issue with Jalen Hurts right now is he's not accurate. He's not very willing to throw in these tight windows until the game's late and they really got to play catch up like they had to against the Bears. But he can do it. And I think, again, there's a middle ground you got to find between trying to make your players grow if you know they can do it and molding your scheme to what they do best. And that's an interesting balance and approach. I'm curious to see what they do with the rest of the way and moving forward into 2026. All right, guys, coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast, I do want to talk about the passing game a little bit more. I think they should lean into what I'm just talking about right now, like leaning into the aggressive passing attack. I know 2023 taught you a lot of what you shouldn't do moving forward, but I kind of want to use the first 11 weeks of that season as a blueprint. I'll tell you why coming up right here on Locked On Eagles. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when you plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no headaches setting it up, just instant smiles. You got grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos. Endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. Add a personalized message right inside the frame so the gift feels thoughtful the moment it's open. Packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed. Huge wins. It's a holiday gift that actually gets used, not forgotten in a drawer. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's Aura Frames, AURAFrames.com, promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. All right, wrapping up this Tuesday edition of Locked On Eagles. Thanks as always for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 episodes a day, Monday through Friday. Tyler Rowland gets you started in the morning with a shot of football espresso. Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop to talk ball in the afternoon. 2 shows a day, Monday through Friday. You can get it in audio form wherever you get Locked On Eagles, and you can get it on YouTube as well. Just type in Locked On NFL and make sure you subscribe. So Jalen Hurts needs to be better. We talked about that throughout the show. The play calling needs to be better. The offensive line needs to be better and more healthy. It's a total team effort for why this offense has been so bad throughout the majority of the 2025 season. 2026 moving forward, like I talked about, I really do want them to get Jalen Hurts out of his comfort zone more. I feel like they need to grow this passing attack and make it more complex, make it more versatile and multi-dimensional. You got to balance that, again, like molding things around what Jalen does best, but also like knowing he can do certain things trying to push that a little bit more. Just call those plays. Like, give him no choice but to do that. And obviously Jalen's going to have some say in this offense in year 6, 7, when the guy's been to multiple Super Bowls. What he likes, you're going to want to put into the game plan. But I think, again, you got to also like force him to do other things that can help this offense. Will that happen this year? Probably not. I mean, 12 games into the year, who you are is kind of who you are, right? So what I think they should do is kind of lean into what they did in 2023. Like, that was not a sustainable game plan, those first 11 weeks, where the run game was pretty inconsistent, not to the degree it is now, but the run game with DeAndre Swift wasn't nearly as good as it was in 2022 with Miles Sanders. The defense was completely inept. The passing game, they had to carry the load, and they got to a 10-1 record because Jalen was an MVP candidate throughout the majority of that first half of the season. And I feel like, again, that's not what this offense is ever going to be, I think, with Jalen long term. But I think right now, for the final 5 games of the year, this defense has proved, and they proved it last week, that, the majority of the year, they're not giving up production, yardage, touchdowns, nothing. But even like in a game such as last week, when they gave up a lot of yardage at a crazy clip on the ground, they allowed over 250 yards rushing. This defense can still bend, but not break. I mean, they held Chicago to 10 points the majority of the time. The Eagles' offense had countless opportunities to take that game over and go win it, including in the fourth quarter. So even in a game where the defense wasn't that great, it was pretty abysmal in one area of their unit, they still were able to keep you in games. They were still able to get like a really timely interception by Jalen Hunt in the fourth quarter. So this defense proved that you can put them in bad spots and they can still find a way to make it work. I mean, throughout the last month, how many times has this team stopped an offense on 4th and 1, 4th and short, 3rd and, a couple yards to go? This defense has been able to hold them. In the red zone, they've been able to hold teams to field goals or no points at all. So I think a lot of people see that and say, okay, just don't turn the ball over. Don't put the defense in a bad spot. It's why the Eagles were playing such mistake-free football the majority of the year. But I kind of want them to lean into the 2023 strategy on offense because this team needs to score more points. They need to produce more yardage because there will be games like Friday against Chicago moving forward where another offense, like they are producing against this Eagles defense in some way, shape, or form, and you can't expect to score one touchdown all game, a couple touchdowns, one in the second quarter, one in the fourth, couple field goals, and win every single football game. Like, you're going to have to, the defense can carry you, but the offense is going to have to produce much more than they've been doing over the last month. And yes, even if that means you're more exposed to turnovers. Like, obviously turnovers late in a game is not good. Late in a game, that killed you 2 weeks in a row. But I want to see this team kind of lean into that 2023 strategy early on in games, even if it means some early turnovers. If Jalen throws a pick because he gave A.J. Brown a chance down the field late in the first quarter or in the second quarter on a 3rd and long, and they're not just giving up with the coward's draw, I'm kind of cool with that, right? I want them to play aggressive early to get leads. And then, as you get forward with the game, hopefully your run game gets going. You don't turn the ball over. You play smarter. But I want this team to play more aggressive on the offensive side of the football. I liked the first half plan they had against the Dallas Cowboys. Like, they were up 21-0. And if, that game was interesting, but if you are who you've been the majority of the year, which is you play clutch, mistake-free football late in games, they're normally not going to lose that game against the Cowboys. Or even the Bears game, for as bad as it looked all game, they still had a chance to go win it late in the football game. And normally this team is pretty good in those situations. They're normally great in those situations. So I think early on, this offense needs to produce more. They need to score more points, even if it's at the expense of maybe turning the football over. Now, again, you cannot do that like you did in the fourth quarter, twice against the Cowboys, once against the Bears. That can put you away. You cannot turn the ball over in the second half of one-score games. But maybe to make sure you don't have to play in all these one-score games, you try to get up faster earlier. And I think that 2023 offense, again, it was not sustainable, but maybe air it out. Maybe play really aggressive. Again, force Jalen out of his comfort zone. Throw over the middle, even if it's in tight windows. The run game, I don't know if it's going to get back on track this year. And it can't, like I said, it can't just be don't turn the ball over, even if it means we're not producing and we're not scoring points, and just put everything on the defense. I think people almost see it as the turnovers are putting this defense in a hole. But if you're not trying at all to score and to get yardage, if you're so conscious of not turning the ball over, I think that hurts your defense more. So, because it's not realistic to always hold a team to 17 points or less. So I kind of almost want to see a 2023-like blueprint moving forward, especially early on in games. Let me know what you think. Hit us up on X at LockedOnBirds, at DiBiase-LOE. You can also hit us up on our YouTube community page as well. That's going to do it for today's edition of the show. Thanks for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Until tomorrow, thanks as always for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.